My name is Julianne. I'm here with Lari, Gibbons, and Kazuko Goto to present Mokuhanga Journey, creating intersections through collaboration and education. This presentation explores intersections and educational opportunities we have discovered through a shared exploration of Japanese woodblock. Our artistic collaboration brings together new and time-honored approaches by incorporating digital tools with traditional mokuhanga, using Sumi ink as a vehicle throughout our journey. Together we collaborate on mokuhanga projects to expand our artistic practices and to share this important art form with new audiences.
As artists working in Texas, we seldom find examples of Japanese woodcut in the local community. While there are many museums, art centers, and galleries, few offer ways for people to see or to learn about this important art form.
5 years ago, the Crow Museum of Asian Art held a mokuhanga demonstration at the Otsukimi Moon Viewing Festival in Dallas. Numerous people of different backgrounds were excited to see the printing process and wanted to learn more about Japanese woodblock. This experience serves as inspiration to create opportunities for people to learn more about mokuhanga and Japanese culture through classes, exhibitions, workshops, and collaborations.
There are many examples of artists who successfully integrate technology into their mokuhanga practices and whose work is highlighted at this conference. We reached out to several practitioners to discuss their views on integrating laser cutting with mokuhanga. They provided examples of when they use such technology and when they choose to cut a block by hand.
Shuichi Kitamura is a professional carver and educator in Japan. He incorporates laser cutting in specific circumstances. Technology is one of many tools he uses on a case-by-case basis to complete a job, depending on the client's budget and time constraints. For the block featured here, Shuichi used the laser cutter to create a shallow engraving of the intricate design, after which he carved the surrounding area by hand. Although he uses laser cutting for reasons of economy, Shuichi believes technology can be used to enrich the process of art making. Yoonmi Nam is an artist and educator in America. She incorporates technology when it supports the concept of her work. In the prints From Mendenhall Glacier and Nice and Cool Here, she uses laser cutting to replicate hand-drawn marks in the same way mokuhanga would do so for brushstrokes. By using the laser cutter, she explores the idea of print as a reproduction and printmaking's history as a medium that imitates different ways of image and mark making. Annie Bizet is an artist and educator in America. She chooses whether to carve a block by hand or laser based on the content and intent of the artwork. In the first book, she cuts the block by hand because the print depicts a page from John Eliot's Indian Bible, a text originally printed in 1663. Annie's use of hand carving conveys and reinforces the laborious nature of the historic process used to create the custom wood type for the original.
Through common interests and shared goals, we initiated an artistic collaboration centered around mokuhanga as a time-honored, adaptable form of printmaking.
Our goals are to share our diverse knowledge and strengths with one another, to produce experimental work that combines new technology with an appreciation of traditional craft, to create new audiences, and build momentum for mokuhanga in contemporary art by disseminating the artwork, and to enrich our teaching by learning about the medium and providing us with new educational resources. We began our collaboration by making a series of Sumi ink drawings for woodblock prints, making shapes and patterns that could be layered in the printing process. We did not plan finished compositions, instead producing open-ended options that would lead us to playful and experimental printing sessions. Next, we translated the most promising drawings into digital files and laser-cut blocks, conducting tests to refine the settings. This stage of the project was interrupted by the COVID pandemic, during which shutdowns limited our access to shared workspaces and changed the way we collaborated with one another. For the next year, we worked in separate physical spaces, connecting electronically to compare progress or meeting outdoors to exchange blocks. Julianne and Kazuko printed blocks, sharing results with Lari to incorporate feedback when cutting new ones. Once it was safe to do so, we met for shared printing sessions in order to compare results and produced more finished works. We printed the blocks using different shades of black sumi ink, bringing the project full circle back to the original drawings.
Our goal was to gain new insights on Mokuhanga and how to integrate laser cutting into the process, so it was inevitable that we experienced setbacks along the way.
For each wood block, we considered the depth of the image burned into the wood, the complexity of its details, and how burnt areas of the block affected the final quality of the print. Our first challenge was to produce a well-crafted block. A laser cutter works by firing short, rapid pulses straight down at a 90-degree angle to the surface of the block. This creates a hard-edged pocket and leaves a porous texture in the areas that are burnt away. The engraved surface of the block collects ink and water that transfers to the finished print. To compensate, we tried a feature that creates sloped edges typically achieved by using the hengito knife. This feature proved limiting, providing only a modest improvement while increasing processing time significantly. We achieved better results with a shallow laser engraving followed by a deeper layer of hand cutting. We encountered surprises when printing the blocks. Besides the normal complications that might come with hand printing, we noticed it was more difficult than usual to avoid printing streaks of ink in areas that had been burnt away by the laser cutter. We believe this is because the laser cutter leaves a porous texture rather than a smooth surface in areas that are burnt away. However, blocks with denser compositions and finer marks produced more consistently acceptable prints than blocks with large areas of negative space or large shapes. Positive or black line blocks also printed better than negative or white line blocks, even if the composition was dense. Occasionally, prints were stained by the residual soot left on the wood from the laser cutter. This was due to burning too deeply into the wood, although at first it was thought that deeper would be better to avoid the paper picking up ink in the negative spaces. Overall, we found the laser cutter advantageous for blocks with dense compositions or fine details where hand carving would be too time-consuming or difficult to achieve without a certain level of skill. Blocks that printed well without streaks or stains from the burning process were also counted as successes, as well as blocks that were able to hold onto important details of the images burned into them while being printed.
Japanese wood block serves an important purpose in higher education as well as a springboard for artistic collaboration.
Through Mokuhanga, students discover ways of working that require them to slow down. Carving requires time and patience. Rushing through the process creates problems that take time to resolve. Although students struggle at first, they come to appreciate this stage of the process, describing it as meditative because it brings a sense of calmness to their busy schedules. Printing tests students' patience and require them to adapt to changes in the environment. They work to find the correct amount of ink, nori, and moisture as these factors often vary. At the end of a semester, students feel this is the most difficult part of Mokuhanga, as it is a long-lasting search that can only be answered by experience. Students often establish a strong connection with their materials and tools. At the beginning of the semester, every student receives a kit containing everything they need to complete their assignments. Students carry their wood block and tools with them throughout the semester back and forth between print studio and home, forming a close and protective relationship as they spend so much time with their materials. Students come to appreciate the rich history of Japanese woodblock. At the beginning of semester, Mokuhanga is usually foreign, but as time unfolds, they enjoy having a familiar relationship with the practice.
When integrating emerging technologies into a curriculum, having a dialogue with students is essential. By addressing the topic in the curriculum, students can choose when it makes sense to use the laser cutter and when it is appropriate to carve by hand.
These examples show the work of student Michaela Kim, who made a series of images incorporating color reduction layers followed by key blocks with intricate designs. After making the first print, Grassland Hair, by hand, she opted to use a laser cutter in order to reduce cutting time without sacrificing the complexity of the key blocks. The subsequent prints use laser cut blocks for both key and background layers, with the color reductions carved by hand. Michaela is pleased with the prints she created using laser cutting technology. She could not have done a series of 2 prints without it. Technology allowed her to feel less stressed. She felt comfortable creating a digital file of her image and using a laser cutter. After her experience, she felt it was faster to carve the reduction block by hand because of its simple shapes. For the laser cut block, she oversimplified the lines and they came out too clean. If she were to redo, she would be more careful not to retouch the lines as much. She enjoys the warm, organic line quality of Grassland Hair, which was cut by hand. Having full access to the fabrication lab, students have an opportunity to integrate the technology, utilizing this resource and exploring its possibilities while embracing the tradition of Mokuhanga.
When it comes time to work outside of an educational institution after graduation, students encounter challenges. Many printmaking techniques require special machinery, chemicals, tools, and ventilated spaces. Recent graduates must rent space at community shops, if any exist in their location, or adopt non-toxic techniques to makeshift at-home studios. Faced with these options, some emerging artists may not continue to practice printmaking on their own. Mokuhanga enables recent graduates to overcome these hurdles, making it ideal for printing in different scenarios. The process does not require special machinery, making it accessible and feasible. Because the mediums are water-based and non-toxic, only water is required for cleanup and chemicals are unnecessary. Low-tech, affordable options, such as wooden spoons, make Mokuhanga a flexible, sustainable option for building a practice. With options to take courses at universities and workshops at art centers and museums around the world, Mokuhanga is more accessible than ever. Meanwhile, there are many pathways to accessing digital fabrication technologies. As digital fabrication becomes more common, especially in art, there is a desire for more labs around the world as well as a growing community that utilizes them. Some creative digital studios focus on collaborating with artists, and specialized techniques can be learned at art centers offering laser cutting workshops. This project highlights the relevance of Mokuhanga to contemporary art practices and education through the use of digital technology. By exploring the applications of laser cutting to Mokuhanga and sharing our experiences with others, we hope to inspire future practitioners and new generations of artists. While society is becoming increasingly digital, we see an increasing interest in art practices that allow people to use their hands. With this shift, we see an appreciation of traditional mediums, especially those that are adaptable as well as rich in cultural significance. Perhaps one of the most accessible and versatile traditional printmaking techniques, Japanese woodblock, stands at the center of this focus. Once new artists are drawn to Mokuhanga for its unique aesthetic and accessible process, they are sometimes discouraged by its unfamiliarity and unexpected degree of technical skill required throughout the process. In some cases, laser cutting can serve as a bridge for those who are more familiar and comfortable with digital tools. Whether using digital drawing or a scan of a drawing done by hand, the laser cutter will be able to reproduce it on the wood block. Once they experience this transformation firsthand, some people will choose to continue learning, practicing, and sharing their experiences with others. In order to continue building new audiences and momentum for Mokuhanga and contemporary art, we are organizing an exhibition and series of workshops in North Texas. This will provide further opportunities for local artists to experience this adaptable form of printmaking and continue generating more interest and awareness of this time-honored medium.